Imagine a vegetable that thrives for 2 decades, surpasses human height, and consistently provides fresh sustenance, yet remains absent from any commercial food store. While conventional agriculture relies on seasonal or patentable crops, this unique tree collard defies all norms. It rarely produces seeds, eludes corporate regulation, and propagates solely through manual cuttings, forming a discrete food network exchanged among neighbors. Given its remarkable resilience and nutritional value, capable of enduring harsh seasons and outperforming common kale, why was it excluded from our fields, causing us to overlook its potential for perpetual sustenance? The quest for answers begins here. A solitary tree collard emerges from the soil, with the quiet assurance of something ancient. Its trunk, stout and woody like a young fruit tree, supports a canopy of broad, shiny leaves that shimmer in the breeze. Unlike the tender stems of ordinary kale or collards, this plant develops a true stem, gnarled, scarred, and occasionally as wide as a child's wrist. In temperate zones, the trunk can expand to 4 inches in diameter. Its branches extend upward and outward, propelling the plant to heights of 8, sometimes even 10 feet. Older plants arch and spread, sprouting side shoots in every direction, each adorned with a cluster of purplish-green leaves. The foliage is dense and layered, with leaves often as large as dinner plates. Their hue shifts with the seasons, transitioning from a deep blue-green to a smoky violet, particularly in winter, when cold weather activates anthocyanin pigments. The leaves never fall simultaneously. Instead, the plant maintains its canopy year-round, forming a living wall of edible greenery. Even after a decade in the ground, the trunk thickens and the canopy expands, transforming a humble vegetable into a permanent, almost sculptural feature in the garden. Beneath the surface, a taproot delves deeply into the earth, anchoring the plant against wind and extracting minerals inaccessible to annual crops. The result is a perennial vegetable that stands taller than most individuals and lives longer than many trees in a backyard orchard. Each year the trunk becomes rougher, the bark more furrowed, and the scars from previous harvests chronicle the passage of seasons. This is not a crop that follows a calendar. It is a permanent fixture, a living food source that withstands drought, frost, and neglect, silently harnessing sunlight and transforming it into abundance. The tree collard is more than just a plant in a garden. It is a testament to survival, constructed leaf by leaf, ring by ring, year after year. A tree collard's life extends far beyond typical vegetables. In gardens with mild winters, a single plant has been observed to persist for a decade, sometimes nearly 2 decades, its trunk growing thicker with each passing season. This is not mere anecdote. It is confirmed by experienced gardeners, nursery archives, and horticultural texts that characterize tree collards as enduring perennials, not ephemeral crops. Most annual vegetables perish within a year, but this living structure continues to produce leaves season after season without requiring replanting. However, this longevity is accompanied by a peculiar reproductive trait. Unlike its kale or collard relatives that bolt and disperse seeds after 1 or 2 years, the tree collard rarely, if ever, flowers. In coastal California and other temperate regions, entire stands can go years without producing a single blossom. When flowers do appear, the event is brief and unpredictable. The few seed pods that form contain only a handful of seeds, and the offspring never resemble the parent. Each seedling is a genetic lottery, sometimes reverting to a short-lived ordinary kale, or sometimes exhibiting traits that bear little resemblance to the original plant. The outcome is genetic unpredictability and disappointment for anyone attempting to save seeds. Botanists studying perennial brassicas have long suspected that this reluctance to produce seeds stems from the plant's genetic makeup. Chromosomal imbalances, partial sterility, and flower abortion are common in perennial kale breeding trials. In the field, Growers report deformed flower buds, aborted pods, and low pollen viability, indications that the plant's reproductive system is, at best, unreliable. Yet, a comprehensive cytological map of the purple tree collard's reproductive system has never been published. The evidence comes from decades of field observations, not laboratory analyses. For the gardener, the conclusion is clear. The tree collard behaves as if it has forgotten how to reproduce by seed. Instead, it dedicates all its energy to vegetative growth, yielding an endless supply of leaves and branches. The only dependable method to continue its lineage is through cuttings, snapping off a branch and rooting it in soil. This genetic peculiarity excludes the tree collard from the commercial seed market, placing it in a rare category, a perennial food crop that cannot be mass-produced from seed, only transmitted hand to hand, clone by clone. The plant's biology itself resists commodification, explaining why such a durable food source remains largely overlooked in modern agriculture. Shipping manifests from the 1700s detail barrels of cabbages and kales alongside salted meat and hardtack, essential provisions for transatlantic voyages. In the damp, wind-swept gardens of the British Isles, perennial kales, known as cottager's kale or tree kale, served as living larders, pruned each season but never uprooted. Victorian garden journals described these plants as the foundation of coastal cottage plots, their thick stems and leafy crowns surviving where annual crops failed. By the mid-19th century, tree-like kales were prevalent in Scotland, Ireland, and along the Atlantic coasts of France and Spain. Mediterranean gardeners also cultivated perennial collards in sheltered corners of stone-walled terraces, valuing their resilience to both drought and salt spray. Ethnobotanists highlight Montenegro in the Balkans, where families still maintain multi-year collard bushes, propagated by breaking off pieces and rooting them during spring rains. These plants did not travel in seed packets. They were transported as cuttings, concealed in soil, wrapped in cloth, and carried by hand from one homestead to the next. When colonial ships embarked for the Americas, they brought more than just seeds. Hardy brassicas, including perennial varieties, were stored in root balls or tucked into barrels as a safeguard against crop failure. Over time, these resilient plants found new homes in kitchen gardens, stretching from the Caribbean to the Carolina coast. The journey of the tree collard is not defined by a single origin or famous name, but by a network of migratory roots, each leaving its mark in different soil. One ethnobotanist observes that these perennial greens are found wherever people needed food security and could not rely on markets or favorable weather. Cuttings wrapped in damp cloth, tucked into pockets, or slipped between fence slats carried the tree collard from one garden to another. In the Victorian era, cottage journals mention neighbors exchanging leafy branches over hedgerows, each interaction preserving a living memory. The plant's absence from seed catalogs is not accidental. Without reliable seeds, there was nothing for merchants to package or patent. Instead, its lineage survived through simple acts of sharing. Ethnobotanists recount stories from coastal villages and rural communities where the arrival of a new family often led to an invitation to take a cutting home. In the American South, oral histories from descendants of enslaved gardeners describe backyard plots where a single collard bush became a lifeline. When money was scarce and land tenure uncertain, the ability to snap off a branch and root it in a coffee can or a patch of bare earth offered a form of food security unmatched by any store. The plant's journey is mapped not by official records, but by living testimony. Gardeners in California trace their tree collard back to a neighbor's grandmother, and Scottish crofters recall the kale bush that sustained their winter table. Each cutting is a fragment of an unwritten archive, passed along during times of need, celebration, or migration. The tree collard's commercial invisibility is not a weakness, but a testament to a social technology built on trust, resilience, and the simple act of sharing what endures. A mature tree collard yields harvests on a scale that challenges the conventional wisdom of annual gardening. Field notes from home growers and small trial plots indicate that a single, well-established plant can produce between 2 and 4 pounds of leaves per month during its prime years. Over a mild season, this amounts to 20 to 40 pounds, enough to fill a kitchen sink many times over. Unlike annual crops that peak and then decline, the tree collard extends its productivity throughout the calendar, offering consistent, repeated harvests rather than a single flush. If one tracks the plant for a typical productive lifespan, for instance 12 years in a favorable climate, the figures become substantial. Rough estimates from garden logs and informal weighings suggest that a single plant can yield well over 400 pounds of edible leaves before age or disease eventually diminish its output. This figure is not a precise laboratory measurement, but a composite derived from actual gardens where picking is a weekly ritual and the plant is never allowed to bolt. To contextualize this, a solitary tree collard occupying a small corner of a backyard can outproduce the total yield of dozens of annual kale or collard seedlings planted and replanted over the same period. The harvest is not just plentiful, it offers a continuous harvest, eliminating the need to replant each spring. For those tracking food output per square foot, the tree collard's cumulative yield is an anomaly in vegetable farming. Its production builds year after year, a living record of nutrients and energy that only concludes when the plant itself eventually declines. Laboratory assessments of standard collard greens establish a high nutritional benchmark, yet the enduring tree collard distinguishes itself from its nearest botanical kin. Calcium density presents the initial surprise. Per calorie, collard greens supply 4 times the calcium of milk. This implies a serving of tree collard leaves from the same species group can deliver 170 milligrams of calcium per 100 kilocalories, based on typical collard analyses. This isn't a trace element, it's a substantial dose in every bite. Protein content similarly impresses. In 100 grams of cooked leaves, collards generally provide nearly 5 grams of protein, a remarkable figure for a vegetable, particularly given the plant's capacity for year-round leaf production. This protein isn't mere filler, it accompanies a comprehensive range of vitamins, including A, C, and K, along with various minerals drawn up by the plant's extensive taproot. The purple hue found in certain tree collard varieties indicates an additional nutritional advantage. Anthocyanins, the antioxidants celebrated in blueberries, are present here in notable quantities. While most leafy greens offer minimal amounts, purple tree collards can reach up to 420 milligrams per kilogram, based on measurements in other purple brassicas. These compounds safeguard cells from oxidative stress, adding a layer of health benefits beyond basic nutrition. Taste serves as the ultimate measure in this evaluation. Unlike the sharp, occasionally bitter flavor of annual kale, tree collard leaves are mild, sweet, and nutty. Their perennial root system extracts complex minerals, enriching the taste in ways annual crops cannot replicate. For those seeking nutrition, flavor, or both, the data presents a clear narrative. This perennial green surpasses its competitors, not merely in cultivation, but in the chemical composition of each leaf. Industrial agriculture operates on a simple premise. The more uniform a crop, the simpler it is to scale. Machinery is fine-tuned for consistency. Rows of identical plants, precisely 18 inches apart, are harvested in a single pass. The tree collard, however, defies these conventions. Its branches twist and spread, each plant growing at its own pace, challenging the uniformity that links harvesting with efficiency. For large-scale farms, this unpredictability is more than a minor inconvenience. It's a logistical challenge. Perishability presents another hurdle. Conventional greens are cultivated for resilience, capable of enduring days in cold storage and cross-country transit. In stark contrast, tree collard leaves wilt within 2 hours of being picked. Their delicate nature, so cherished by gardeners, means they collapse before reaching supermarket shelves. Distributors and grocers, facing losses from unsaleable produce, have no incentive to risk a crop that cannot withstand the journey from farm to store. The most significant impediment, however, lies in the economics of seeds. Contemporary seed companies rely on a recurring revenue model. Each season, farmers and gardeners purchase new seed packets. Every seed represents a tiny permit, ensuring that each harvest commences with a transaction. The tree collard, almost entirely dependent on cuttings rather than seeds, disrupts this cycle. Once a gardener possesses a single plant, they can propagate hundreds more. No seed packets, no royalties, no repeat sales. An agricultural economist notes that the entire supply chain is optimized for crops that can be bought, sold, and transported in bulk. If a plant cannot be patented, standardized, or moved as seed, it remains invisible to the system. The issue isn't that the tree collard failed the market, it's that the market never found a way to profit from it. In the logic of industrial food, abundance without financial return is a dead end. The tree collard's biology, perfectly suited for survival and propagation, renders it an outlier that modern agricultural mechanisms were never designed to accommodate. In a world where drought shrivels gardens and late frosts decimate seedlings overnight, the tree collard remains unaffected. Its deep taproot extends far beneath the parched surface, drawing water during 30-day dry spells when even established fruit trees begin to wilt. Growers in California and the Mediterranean recount similar experiences. When the summer sun bakes the soil, annual greens collapse, while tree collard leaves stay crisp and sweet, their color intensifying as the plant concentrates its energy on survival. In winter, as temperatures dip below freezing, the plant's waxy leaves and woody trunk hold firm. Reports from Zone 8 gardens confirm survival at -6 degrees Celsius, with only the youngest shoots exhibiting damage. Where lettuce and spinach blacken with frost, the tree collard shrugs off the cold, ready to regrow at the first sign of sun. This resilience isn't theoretical, it's rigorously field-tested. Permaculture growers have conducted stress trials, leaving established plants unwatered for a month or exposing cuttings to sudden chills. Repeatedly, the outcome is the same: survival, regrowth, abundance. The secret lies in the plant's structure, a perennial root system designed for slow, steady gathering, and a trunk that stores energy through periods of plenty and scarcity alike. Even after a harsh season, a single branch can be snapped off, stripped of its leaves, and pressed into damp soil. Within weeks, roots emerge, and a new plant begins to grow, a perfect clone of the parent, prepared to nourish another household. This stick method requires no tools, no specialized soil, and no waiting for seeds. It's a technology older than the seed packet, practiced in backyard gardens and permaculture food forests alike. On camera, a permaculture grower demonstrates the process. One clean cut, a handful of leaves removed, a branch inserted into the earth. No fertilizer, no irrigation system, just patience and faith in the plant's intrinsic will to live. Within a single season, the cutting sends up new shoots, and by the following year, it's already yielding harvestable leaves. This is not a fragile novelty, but a proven survivor, a perennial vegetable that relegates climate stress to a secondary concern. For gardeners contending with water rationing, unpredictable weather, or limited time and labor, the tree collard isn't merely an alternative. It's a quiet revolution, offering food security that strengthens with each passing year. Currently, most of our food system still relies on delicate, ephemeral crops, while a plant that thrives for decades remains largely overlooked. In a world facing climate instability and supply chain disruptions, true security may arise not from novel innovations, but from recalling what was intentionally disregarded. The promise of future abundance could begin with a single cutting. Thank you for watching, and please share your thoughts below.